Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something pretty heavy but absolutely crucial. We're talking about the silent, often exhausting pain of unanswered prayers and those incredibly long seasons of waiting. If you've been walking around with this heavy disappointment sitting in your chest for months or maybe even years, honestly, This Explainer is made exactly for you. So let's just take a collective breath and jump right in.
You know the questions. Why still? Why me? Why is it taking this long? That right there is the true weight of a long wait, isn't it? It's not just watching the calendar pages turn. It's that specific, bone-deep fatigue of carrying those exact, painful questions around with you all day. The material we're unpacking today totally validates that fatigue. It acknowledges the protests, the tears into the pillow, and just the sheer overwhelming exhaustion of not knowing when or if the answer's ever going to arrive.
So, our source suggests something super interesting here, and I want to guide you through it. Right now, just notice your body. Where exactly does the anxiety of your waiting live? Does it press behind your eyes? Maybe it sits tight in your jaw? Just try to locate where that question lives physically. And here's the absolute most important part of this. Do not try to fix it yet. Seriously. Finding a wound is very different from forcing it to heal. Right now, all we're doing is acknowledging that, yeah, the wound is there.
Section 1. The weight of waiting. A slow, quiet shaping.
So, here's a wild thought. Your long chapter of waiting? It was never actually a delay. And it definitely wasn't a punishment. Instead, there's been this hidden, quiet shaping happening inside of you the whole time. While you were busy watching the front door for an answer, something was actively working on the floorboards of your own foundation. The source puts it perfectly. What you waited for was waiting in you. Think about it. That breakthrough, the mended relationship, the health, the finances, whatever you ask for, it couldn't just drop out of the sky. A massive part of the answer had to be formed inside your own nervous system. You literally needed to grow strong enough to hold the blessing when it finally shows up, so it doesn't just completely break you.
Moving on to Section 2. Renovation, not decay. The mess of construction.
Okay, so when we're completely burnt out by waiting, it's really easy to misread our own internal chaos. We've got to completely flip our perspective on that extreme internal fatigue. Just think about the literal definition of renovation for a second. It's the necessary dismantling of old internal architecture. You're knocking down walls, prying open windows that have been painted shut for decades, ripping out old faulty wiring. So that giant mess you feel inside yourself, it is not a sign that you're failing or falling apart. Actually, scratch that. It's the exact opposite. It's the undeniable messy proof of active construction. Because there's a massive difference between the mess of decay and the mess of construction, right? The mess of decay means things are just rotting and ending. It's over. But the mess of construction, that means things are being intentionally, lovingly rebuilt. Anyone who's ever lived through a home DIY project knows a house mid-renovation looks like an absolute disaster zone. There's dust everywhere, you're constantly tripping over exposed pipes. But that chaos, that's proof of an intentional upgrade. You're being expanded to hold a much larger reality.
Section 3. Building the receiver. Shaping the recipient.
So what exactly is all this exhausting internal demolition trying to build inside of you? Basically, a specific type of person capable of actually handling the breakthrough. The source highlights 3 really crucial traits being formed in the waiting room. First, deep cellular patience. Not just, a polite smile at the grocery store line, but a deep patience that doesn't need instant gratification to keep going. Second, a much softer relationship with control. You're learning to hold hope with an open hand instead of white-knuckling it. And third, a real self. A version of you that doesn't just collapse when your phone stops buzzing or when Tuesday night is completely empty. You're gaining genuine density and gravity.
All right, let's try another physical grounding trick to pull you out of the when is this going to happen anxiety. Right now, just place your palm flat on a solid surface. A table, your chair, your leg, whatever's close. Feel that physical resistance pushing back against your hand? Let that solid sensation pull you out of all that floating, future-tripping anxiety and literally ground you back to the floor of the present moment. Because here's the thing, most of your life has already arrived right here, in this exact breath.
It's so incredibly common to feel like you've just been benched, like you've been completely removed from the game, shoved into a penalty box while everyone else gets to play and live their lives. But honestly, the truth is, you're being seasoned. The isolation of this whole waiting period, it's not a penalty. It's this deep, enriching process making you fully capable of actually sustaining the future you've been asking for.
Which brings us to Section 4. Gestation over stalled engines. A new metaphor?
The metaphors we use in our heads to describe waiting, they literally dictate how we feel about the whole experience.
Like when we picture a stalled engine, we obviously feel frustrated, broken, and just stuck. We desperately want to jam the key in the ignition and force it to go. But what if we completely swap that metaphor out for gestation? Think about it. A pregnancy looks like absolutely nothing is happening on the outside for a really long time. But on the inside, it is literally the most miraculous, highly active biological marathon a body can go through. You aren't a broken down car on the side of the road. You are pregnant with the answer, and it's unfolding, cell by tiny cell.
And there's this one thought from the material that just kind of changes everything. It says, a long chapter is the answer in motion. The answer isn't just that final fireworks moment of arrival. The arrival's literally just one single note in a much longer song. The answer has actually been arriving this entire time. It's been working on you quietly, in forms your eyes just simply haven't been trained to see quite yet.
Section 5. The Small Funeral. Grieving Smaller Hopes.
Okay, so to make room for this much larger reality, certain limiting beliefs had to be gently laid to rest. And we really need to softly acknowledge the grief you might be holding for your original smaller hopes, the ones that just didn't survive this long journey. Your deep need to control the timeline, that had to die. Otherwise, it would have completely strangled the pace of what was actually being built. Your illusion of being completely self-sufficient had to be dismantled. And those quiet little idols we all have, the need for constant approval, the obsession with absolute security, the exhausting performance of having it all together, they had to be demoted. Why? So the larger reality could actually fit into your life.
Let's just do another quick check-in. Notice your jaw for a second. See if you can just let your bottom teeth drift a tiny bit away from your top teeth. Just let your face relax by a fraction of an inch. You've probably been carrying the literal weight of bracing against disappointment in your facial muscles for years. Seriously, let that go. It's time to set down some of that heavy lifting.
Section 6. Preparing for the Arrival. Handling the Breakthrough.
The season you're in is starting to shift, and we really need to look at the huge contrast between a spender and a steward. A spender gets a blessing and just burns right through it, mostly because they haven't built the internal character to actually hold on to it. But this weight, it was designed by a slow, patient kind of love to build you into a steward, someone who can hold the blessing, fiercely protect it, and actually watch it grow for decades.
It really all boils down to this incredibly beautiful truth. A gift given to a receiver who is not ready becomes a problem, but a gift given to a receiver who is ready becomes a fountain. The weight was actually protecting you from getting something that would have totally crushed you, transforming into this receiver, someone who can be a life-giving fountain for others. That was the deeper miracle going on all along.
So, the big question, how will you know it's finally time? Well, our source points out 3 super subtle signs to look out for. First, a sudden, quiet clearing in the middle of your chest during a totally ordinary hour. Second, an unexpected, tiny yes, like you finally give yourself permission to do something small that randomly opens a massive door. And third, the appearance of a total stranger or a new person crossing your path at exactly the right second. The answer is going to slip in through a small, quiet door. It's not going to be a loud parade.
And when it finally does arrive, true receiving means keeping your hands open, fully trusting the giver, and letting the gift breathe. It is the exact, literal opposite of seizing. Seizing is what we do when we're terrified because we've waited too long, right? We grip it, we crush it, we accidentally suffocate the very thing we wanted. But receiving? Receiving just says thank you, with open, completely relaxed hands. Before we wrap this up, I want you to try one last physical act. Place both of your hands over your face. Feel the soft, comforting pressure of your own hands. You know, you've wiped away a lot of tears with those hands, and right now they can just hold you. Let yourself actually rest before the answer comes. You don't have to white-knuckle your way to the finish line anymore. You're unconditionally loved exactly as you are right here in this exact moment.
And as we close out this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative question. Not what has changed in your outward circumstances, but what has changed in you while you were waiting. Just look at the softness you've gained. Look at the rock-solid patience you've built. Look at the receiver you've finally become. The wait wasn't just empty time, it was building you. So take a minute today to just recognize your own profound transformation.